Hello folks, hope you're all keeping well. We've a bit of an announcement to make today in terms of the Panzer project. As most of you will know, if you have been following the series so far, we have converted the 840CI to electric drive, utilising a ZF5 HP24 automatic gearbox, and I even did a video series on that about getting that gearbox shifting using the electrically controlled solenoids. Now, I've been driving the car for some testing recently, and I've also had occasion to be doing some just general automotive repairs on the car for purposes of NCT and hopefully getting some professional body work done. And yeah, there's kind of no easy way to say this. I'm taking the automatic out. As I had hinted at in a previous video, I was going to use the Innova motor and reduction gearbox system. That was kind of where my thoughts were, to go away from the complexity of the automatic and get away from the weight of it and some drivability problems that I've been experiencing. Kind of a little bit difficult to describe, but I'll do my best. Basically, the car drives fine, but I don't like the way the car drives, and additionally to that, I'm not getting anywhere near the efficiency that I would like. And that's a bit of a problem for me, because I do want that car to have quite good range and drivability. So that kind of came down. I was kind of looking at using the Innova motor, and I'm thinking about it. And recently I just got that spinning and found out, to my dismay, that the prop shaft flange has a warp in it. So that's going to have to come off, and I'm going to have to give that to a machine shop to get that straightened out. But even leaving that aside, there's an amount of work that would be required to install the Innova motor system. Basically, the engine bay would need to be stripped out totally again. Now, okay, could do that. And then I started doing some maths, looking at the reduction ratio in the Innova and trying to just work out, just in a very basic form, how the car would actually perform for me. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get myself to like it. And although I can survive a second time lucky conversion, I really don't want it to be a third time lucky. So I thought, okay, if I'm not going to use the Innova, and if I want to minimize the amount of work that I'm going to do to get the vehicle into the way that I want it to be, I'm going to have to try something completely different. So I had looked originally, when I purchased the vehicle, at the possibility of doing a manual conversion to the car. Basically, there were very few E31s built with a manual gearbox. Those that were, especially now, tend to be very much sought after, and justifiably, I think, kind of well outside of my price point. And besides, I have this car already converted. So I get to thinking, I thought, I kind of said okay, I was going to stick with the automatic and give it a shot. I think I can officially report now that was a failure. Not a good idea. Yes, certain people said it to me, and I have to accept that I made a mistake with that, and now get on to putting that right. Okay, I'm waffling on here. Sorry guys, I just want to try to give you the big picture before I get tied up into the detail here. So, okay. Bottom line is, we're going to convert the Panzer into a manual gearbox or manual transmission car. Now, because we're electric vehicle conversion project, we can cheat quite a bit here. So the first thing that I did was I started looking up online for people that had done manual conversions on the 8 series, and I found a particularly good thread. I'll put a link in the description, of a gentleman in the United States that had converted an 840CI from automatic to manual. So that kind of got my brain in gear a bit, and I started thinking, okay, this could be possibly doable. So I had a good read through that thread and what the guy had done. So basically what it entails, as in most of these conversions, is that you remove the automatic, replace it with a manual that will bolt up to the engine block, put in your kind of clutch, gear shifter linkages, all that kind of thing, and you're done. But as I say, we can cheat a little bit because we're doing EV. The first biggie is we don't need a clutch. So that wipes out all of the things about having to change the pedal box and install clutch hydraulics and all of that kind of thing. That goes away. So that's a big help. Second thing is, if we're going to do this, the simplest way, because I have the adapter plate made up and I have the bell housing pattern in it and it's all set up, the simplest way for me to do this, which would be the kind of, if I had the funds to do so, would be to treat it like a normal internal combustion engine project, where I would, excluding the clutch as I described, I would remove the automatic, get myself a manual flywheel clutch pack, bolt all this up to my hub that I have mounted on the Siemens motor, bolt up a 6-speed manual, fit a shifter mechanism, fit a manual prop shaft, drive it on. Problem is, the V8 6-speed manuals that would bolt up to the existing adapter plate that I have are like hen's teeth here. Or as the Brits would say, rocking horse poo. Very rare, and when you can get them, very expensive. I could pull one in out of the UK, looked at that briefly, but I would be talking about, when it would be all landed here, probably the guts of a grand to get that gearbox in here. So could do that, and thought about that, and then by the time I pull in the other bits for the shifter and a manual prop shaft and various other bits and pieces, yeah, I'd be well up over £2,000. But it would pretty much bolt up, and would mean that I wouldn't have to remove the motor from the engine compartment at all. I could just support it with a jack and just, as I say, treat it like an internal combustion engine project. But sadly, I don't have the resources to do it in that way. So several of you will probably already have guessed during my ramblings here what I am planning to do. So, okay, I said to myself, if I can't use a V8 6-speed, well, then that kind of opens up a lot of possibilities for me, because removing the motor is not a huge deal. The way that I have laid the engine compartment out, I can drop the gearbox out separately and then lift the motor up. Just take the inverter off the top and lift the motor up and out. So not a big deal to get the motor landed here. Now what that means is that I can cut a new adapter plate. And if I can cut a new adapter plate, I can make one to suit the inline 6. And that opens up a lot more gearbox choice for me. So I thought, okay, aluminium plate cost me less than $100, probably only about 70, 80 bucks. And I can, cut that out, line it up, and bolt up a different gearbox. So then I thought, okay, well, what kind of gearbox do I want to use here? I obviously want to use a BMW gearbox for as much compatibility as I can get. But the truth is, I could use a lot of different gearboxes here. But the one that I know that works extremely well for me and has now for the last 50,000 miles in the land yacht is this guy, which is an E31 5-speed. This little guy is quite amazing, really. I have trashed the one in the land yacht, and it just keeps on ticking. So very impressed with that. This box weighs less than 30 kilos. I can lift it, I could carry it around on my shoulder all day long. I certainly couldn't do that to the 5HP24. In fact, I couldn't even lift the 5HP24 at all. So there's a weight saving to be had here also. Next thing is the size of it. It's really small. From the bell housing to the rear bracket is only about 520 millimeters, which is well under 2 feet. And these things are just so easy to find here. I got everything that you see on the bench here for €100. I basically cleaned up the gearbox, gave it a pressure wash. It was fairly mucky, and it cleaned up very nicely for me. So I got the gearbox, I got all the hardware, I got actually 2 complete flywheel and clutch packs. We're obviously going to be using a clutchless coupler here, so we'll be just using the friction plate center. We'll have detail on this, and you've seen me doing this in previous conversions, but it'll be interesting to see how this works out with the Siemens motor. So basically I've got quite a lot of the stuff that I need here to actually put a manual gearbox into the car. So the big problem that I will have with this is that obviously the E31 was never meant to take a 6-speed manual gearbox. So we'll have to do a custom cross member for it. We have the mountings, and I got the E39 cross member also, just so I can have a kind of a template to work from. Next up, once we have it physically mounted in there, will be the prop shaft. Prop shaft here, again, won't have been designed to mate up with the existing prop shaft, but the good news there is that I have a very good drive shaft guy that's already made a custom prop for the E31 and the E39 for me, and I picked up yesterday a steel prop shaft that fits here because they are by default aluminium drive shafts in the E39 or So I got a steel one. I think it's from, I don't know what kind of car it's from, but it's from a BM anyway. And that'll mean that my drive shaft guy will be able to take the existing drive shaft, cut the end off that, weld on the new end for me here at the correct length to work with the E39 excuse me, gearbox. Okay, so that'll be gearbox in, prop shaft in, motor back in. At this point, I could just stop. I could pick a gear, third gear, fourth gear, I don't know, maybe even second gear. I could just pick a gear, engage it, put a collar on this thing to stop it jumping out, and I could drive the car. It would be the same as a single speed reduction gear. And I've seen so-called professional conversions done this way. But this comes back to the drivability of the vehicle that I haven't experienced with the automatic. And I'm going to go the whole hog, guys. I'm going to put the manual gear shifter into the vehicle. So let's have a closer look at how we're going to do that. Okay, so we're having a look here at the what's basically an exploded view of how the manual gear selector system would work in a factory 8 series. So just going to run through this pretty quickly. This is what you would need to fit a 6-speed manual to the E31. So couple of things that would be immediately necessary. Now bear in mind these are main dealer parts, so I was a little bit afraid when I first started off that a lot of the bits that I couldn't not have would be ridiculously expensive. So the first bit that we really need is this number 2 here, which is the this kind of shifting bracket, which is unique to the 8 series. Fortunately, and to my surprise, this is a mere €22.28 from my local main dealer. And the next bit would be number 11, which is the end bearing that goes on to keep this in the, to mount it into the vehicle body, which is rather nasty price at $98.23, but I can live with that. Various little sundry bits like these boots, bearings and stuff are all very cheap. This literally, I think that boot there is what, that's 20 bucks. Rest of it's all small scale, much less than a tenner. Some of it's only a couple of cents. This gear lever here would have been quite expensive, €74. But a cross reference tells me that it was in the E36 and also the E30 and I think the E34. So I managed to source locally a nice E30 M3 lever, basically for peanuts, that will do the trick nicely for us, and it's got a metal ball and a short shifting length here. So that's that part covered off. This number 4 here, which would be the bar that would go from the bottom of the shifter here to the gearbox, was a rather ridiculous €342.39. So I was most definitely not going to be paying that for a little bit of tube metal with 2 pins on it that anyway will probably be the wrong size for what we're going to need. So we have the production values. Production values, Damien, are going down the tube. We fortunately have the E31 one, and we can simply cut that up to suit us and make one. These are basically free. So other little bits then, as I say, are pretty much pennies on the dollar. The one biggie that I'm struggling with, and maybe you guys could possibly help me with here, is this number 15, which is the boot and the gear. It's kind of the leather boot and the gear knob and this little bit of plastic that clips in. I was quoted €152.43 from the main dealer, and I thought, okay, I don't need to get that straight away. I can kind of wait a month or two for that. It's not going to stop me sticking a gear lever on there and basically driving the car. But when I asked them to check the availability on it, it turns out that it's not available. And they checked BMW Germany as well for me. And unfortunately, there's none of them around. So if anyone knows in any jurisdiction anywhere in the world where there's one of these available, please get in touch with me through the comments. So that's the shifter mechanism, guys, and we are going to be doing some custom work here, obviously, to make that work with our 5-speed 6-cylinder inline gearbox. Okay, guys, so as you can see there, this is kind of what we're intending to do. Sorry for the really long video here. It just kind of turns out that way when I start talking. I'll try to have edited it down to something reasonable, but it's probably still going to be a half an hour of me droning on like this and everyone. Anyway, so please do stick with us. This is going to be a challenge. Anyone's got any advice, shoot it out there, please. And we'll be back soon when we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this particular project. I'll probably have one more talking update for you when I get the main dealer parts. I will try to assemble something up here on the bench top just to kind of roughly mock up what we're going to be doing in the car. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. If you do like my projects, videos, etc., please consider supporting me through Patreon. I'll put a link to that in the description. And other than that, thanks very much, and we'll see you all next time.